How we doing, y'all? Yeah. Come on, come on, come on. Y'all feeling good today? Y'all feeling excited? I need to feel it. Listen, I know the Eagles are playing right now, okay? And I'm already watching to see if you're checking your phones. And I would just ask that you just let me know if they score a touchdown, all right? I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. That would be really weird. And it probably won't happen anyway, so. It's all good. A true fan can say that, right? Hey, y'all. Man, we are ready for an amazing day. How many of y'all have enjoyed? We just got out of 5 weeks going through a series called Be Real. Has anybody enjoyed that? Come on. It's been an amazing series. Man, Pastor Kenneth has just been crushing it, man, with some truth during that series. And so, man, it's such an honor to be with you guys today, to be able to share this stage with him. I could not be more excited about what God is going to do. But today, you know, we're super close to Halloween, right? Anybody excited for that? Anybody? Good. That's all right. I know we're in church. You're kind of nervous. You're like, should I clap? I don't know. So it's all good. It's all good. But it's funny when we get into like seasons like this, right? Like fall season, like holiday season. You really see what people like and what people don't like, right? Like you really see what people like are a fan of and what they're not a fan of, what holidays they support, what holidays they don't support, like all that kinds of stuff. And if you've been around me for any bit of time, it's pretty clear what I like and what I don't like, right? Like most people know something I don't like is nature, right? Like most people know that. We've been there, okay? We've covered that ground before. We're not getting into that today, I promise. But some things people may also know about me is I don't like heights, like at all, okay? Like I don't do them. I'm not the person who wants to, jump out of an airplane, all right? It took me 18 years to step into an airplane, all right? And so I'm definitely not gonna be jumping out of one anytime soon. Okay, I don't like heights at all. You can ask my friends, people around me. I went to this place called the Spooky Nook up in PA, and there's like this tower you had to climb, and you didn't have anything to hold on to except for this sketchy rope that was holding you. Okay, I cried. All right, I cried on the top. It's all good. I'm a man. I'll tell you, I cried right away. I say I don't like heights. Okay, God made me short for a reason. He said you are not meant to be that tall. We're gonna keep you down here. All right, so I'm just following how God made me. All right, I don't like them. Another thing I really don't like, and it's that time of year. I don't like scary things. Okay, like at all. All right, you try to scare me. That'd be the last time you scared anyone, okay? Just saying. What does that mean? Let's find out. All right? And so like I don't like scary things. I don't like scary places. I don't like scary movies. All right? There's no point in making me sweat the entire time during a movie. No point. I don't like scary movies. I especially don't like haunted houses. I don't like them. Anybody else with me? Don't like haunted houses. Where are my people who like haunted houses? Raise your hand. Raise them up. Raise them up. Y'all are freaking weird, okay? I don't care. I'm just going to say it. You're weird. All right. I don't like haunted house. Here's why. I'm not going to pay good money, great money, to go into a place where you turn all the lights off. You've got all types of masks on, so I don't know who you are. I don't know if your background check. I don't know nothing about you. Okay? All right. And on top of that, there's noises, y'all got chainsaws, all these types of stuff. Who knows if they're real or not? And you make me sign a waiver saying that I can't touch you, okay? And on top of that, you make me sign a waiver, here's the best part, saying that if anything were to happen to me, I can't do nothing about it. So you're not even promising I'm coming out alive. No. So like, no to that, all right? And so I just don't want to step into a place. It has nothing to do with, I don't do haunted house or anything like that because I'm just so Christian and so holy, okay? Let's put that to the side. It's just weird, all right? It's just weird. I don't like it. And there's some crazy stuff that could happen in there. You know what I mean? And so I always just wanted to go inside a haunted house and just like turn the lights on. So like, gotcha. Gotcha. Y'all weird. You're hiding. You're freaking, what are you doing? You're like, you know what I mean? Like so anyway, I'll end there. I could go on and on. I just don't like them. All right. You can ask my friends. One time, I'll stop after this. One time my friends invited me to some haunted trail, haunted house, and I led them on. I said, yeah, I'll be there. The day of comes on, and I just completely lied to them. I was like, I can't make it. Some stuff came up, and I just stopped like answering text messages. You know what I mean? You ever want to get out of a situation, just stop answering text messages. And people, they won't be able to contact you. So I don't like these places at all. They're scary, they're creepy, they got dead things all in them, walking all in them. And I also don't like haunted shows, like Walking Dead, any of that, okay? Don't like it. Don't ask me to watch it. I won't. But what I've realized is the reason that I don't like haunted houses is because of the things that are dead in there, the things that are dark, things that are just scary. And what I've realized about life is that many of us feel like we can relate to a haunted house, right? Because if you were to ask yourself an honest question, you would say that there's areas of your own life that feel dark, that feel a little bit scary, and there's some things that are just dead inside. And when it comes to Jesus, we know one truth. Here's what I know about Jesus, is that Jesus says in John chapter 8, he says, I'm the light of the world. He says, I'm the light of the world. If you follow me, you will not walk in darkness, but you'll have the light of life. Okay? And Jesus says 2 chapters later in John chapter 10, he says, I have come so that you may have life and life to the full. Okay? So here's what we know about Jesus is Jesus came to bring light to dark places and life to dead places. Right? Jesus came to bring light to dark places and life to dead places. And we see this and we love it. We're like, that's amazing, Pastor Nick. I love that. I'm so glad that Jesus came to bring light to the dark and life to the dead. But if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes we hear these things about Jesus and we're like, but that just probably isn't true for me. Right? This probably isn't true for me. If Jesus were to step inside of my life, there's just too many dark places. There's just too many creepy and scary things. There's just too many dead places that I just don't know if he can do much with. And that's the thing when it comes to church, isn't it? That's the thing when it comes to church. We hear all these great things about Jesus. We hear all these great stories about him, and we come to church and we love it. We sing the songs, right? Some of y'all have like never sung these songs before. You're like, is this like Christian karaoke y'all are doing like up on the screen? Like not really sure what's going on. But we sing the songs, we love it. Our kids love United Kids. We do all these things together and we love church. But when it comes to Jesus actually doing great things in our life and miracles in our life, we're kind of like, maybe. I'm sure that's true for them, but I just don't know if I believe if that's true for me. So we love God, but do you ever find yourself just wondering if you truly believe he can do the things that we've heard that he can do? Or believe that he really is who he says he is? So where we're going to jump into scripture, we find 2 of Jesus' closest friends. Here's the thing. This story that we're about to read, these are from Jesus' closest friends who have seen Jesus do all these amazing things. They've seen it, they've literally seen it with their own eyes, him do all these miracles. But they find themselves in a situation where things just seem dead around them. And they don't really believe that Jesus can do anything now. All right, so we're going to jump in. We're in John chapter 11. We just talked about John chapter 8. Jesus said, I'm the light of the world. John chapter 10, Jesus said, I've come that you may have life and life to the full. We just talked about that. Now we're going into John chapter 11, okay? And this, if you know the story, then you'll be able to follow along pretty easily. You kind of know where we're going. But if you don't, this is the story of a man named Lazarus, okay? And so Jesus' 2 very close friends, their name is Mary and Martha. They have a third close friend, his name is Lazarus. Lazarus is on his deathbed, ready to die. And so Mary and Martha send word to Jesus, like, SOS, help, we need you to step in and do something right now. All right, so John chapter 11, verse 1. This is where we'll pick up. It says, now a man named Lazarus was sick, and he was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Martha, whose brother Lazarus was lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sister sent word to Jesus, said, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that the God's Son may be glorified through it." Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. Listen here. It says, so when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. And then he said to the disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." "But Rabbi," they said, "a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you are going back?" Jesus said, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daylight will not stumble, but for they see the world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have light." After he had said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up." Listen to what the disciple says. The disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get better. He'll just wake up." And Jesus, annoyed, angry, frustrating, looking at these people. No, it doesn't say that. But it says Jesus, he's probably thinking that though, had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he was talking about natural sleep. So he told them plainly, sometimes you just got to break it down for him. He says, "Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I'm glad I was not there, so that you may believe. Let us go to him." So here Jesus comes up. He's with his disciples. They just got word that his friend Lazarus is literally on his deathbed. And actually he's dying as they speak. And so his disciples and Mary and Martha are like, we got to go find him. And Jesus, what happens to Jesus? He stays where he was for 2 more days. And so if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. Because I believe there's 3 reasons. There's 3 reasons why we don't fully believe God. There's 3 reasons we don't fully believe God. The first one is this, is we think he's too busy. We think he's too busy. Have you ever just like prayed a prayer, asking God for something, and you're just like, man, God just doesn't have time for this. He doesn't have time for this. It could be something simple like, God, I just need my car to start this morning. Right? It could be something simple like that. God, I need to pass this test, even though I didn't study for it. You know? Or it could be something more serious like, Lord, I need you to step in and heal me because I don't know if I'm going to make it. Or Lord, I need you to step in and save my friend because they're so far gone right now. They need something to help them. You ever just prayed prayers where you're just wondering, but I'm sure God's just too busy? He's got all these other problems to worry about, right? He's got the whole universe. He's got the whole world in his hands. And he's got all these other prayers and all these other things to worry about. He's probably just too busy. And the moments that I feel like I'm starting to doubt God is when I start to say things like this, like he's just too busy. He's too busy. He's got other things to be concerned with, and he just doesn't have time for me. I remember when I was growing up, I was probably like 6 years old. I went Christmas shopping with my parents. And they said, you know, we were going Christmas shopping for like other kids, like Toys for Tots. So immediately I was disinterested, okay? And so it was Toys for Tots or some type of other like charity, something like that. Other kids, not me. And so I went along. I was like, all right, fine. So we're going. And I just remember we were in like Toys R Us or KB Toys, something like that. One of those like toy stores that don't exist anymore. And we were in there and we were just putting more and more toys in this shopping cart. And I just remember the more toys that went in the shopping cart, the more angry I got. Because I'm just like, what? I wanted that toy. You know what I mean? Like you got like this Buzz Lightyear they just put in the cart and then it was game over. Because I love Buzz Lightyear. I was all about some Buzz. You know what I mean? Some Toy Story. And so I just remember looking at them, and I told my mom, I said, what are we doing? I said, we're getting them all these toys. We don't even know these kids, right? Why in the world would we be getting them all these great toys? You know who could use these? Me. Me. Like, do you guys not even care? You're so busy getting all these other kids' toys. Have you even gotten me anything? I'm just heated at this point. You know what I mean? Imagine 6-year-old Nick just like floored. You know what I mean? I was still short then too, okay? And so I was very upset. I was very upset not having it. So anyway, we went home. I go to my room. I threw a fit. I was crying all over the place, you know what I mean? And I remember my parents came into my room. And I said, Nick, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? I just remember saying, like, I mean, y'all are so busy helping all these other kids. Like, you just forgot about me. I'll never forget. My parents put their arm around me. They took me in to like where the storage closet was. And they opened the door and they showed me all these gifts that were already wrapped for me. For me. And I just remember thinking, what in the world was I doing? My parents had it already taken care of, right? They had it already taken care of. And I lost sight of who was in control of the entire Christmas. I just completely lost sight of it. And that happens so easily with us. We see all these other people getting healed. We see all these other people, God coming through for them financially. We see all these other people getting their prayers answered. And sometimes, selfishly, we can think, God, what are you doing? I guess you're just too busy to step into my life and to help me and to help my requests because you're just helping all these other people. And I just feel like if God could just put his arm around you, church, he would just so clearly look you in the face and say, hey, I've got it taken care of. I've already got you and everything that you need and everything that I have for you completely taken care of. And it's got your name on it. It's got your name on it. It's just not the right time for you to open it yet. You know what I mean? It's just not the right time for you to see it yet, for you to experience yet. And so if we're not careful, all we think is God is busy. But in reality, he is in control. He's in control of every situation. See, what Mary and Martha weren't realizing right now is that Jesus was already in control of this whole situation. You know how I know this? Let me show you. I know this because when we think he's busy, this is what Jesus says before he even answers Mary and Martha. He says this. He says, this sickness will not end in death. He's already given them the answer to the problem before anything had even happened, before we even got word that Lazarus officially died. He's already answered their problem. And so often I think we can get so caught up in not seeing things right away that we completely miss the truth and the miracle that God wants to do in our life. We miss it. We miss it because we're so caught up in saying, God, look what's happening. God, all this stuff is going bad. Look what's happening, that we completely miss what's happening. We completely miss it because we forget to realize who's in control. And when we forget to see that God's in control, we try to take control from God. And that's when worry starts to kick in. And that's when anxiety starts to kick in. And that's when fear and panic starts to kick in. The moment we take control from God is when we turn our worship into worry. That's what happens. That's what happens. And so I think what Jesus is trying to tell us is, listen, you may think that I'm busy, but really, I have it all taken care of. I've got it all taken care of. And so we keep going in this story, and we see in John chapter 11, verse 17, this is what it says. It says, on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. But Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed home. Listen to what she says. She says, Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. How quick are we to place the blame on Jesus for situations that don't go our way? She said, Lord, if you had just been here, my brother wouldn't have died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. It's the second time Jesus already said what was going to happen. Your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he'll rise again in the resurrection in the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. It's a little confusing, but I'll explain. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she replied. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. So what happens here is Jesus gets onto the scene, and he realizes that their friend Lazarus, he's been dead for 4 days now. For 4 days. And so Mary and Martha are freaking out. So they come up to Jesus, and they said, hey, God, better late than never, huh? Like, it's great that you're here and all, but you missed it. You missed it. It's done. It's been 4 days now. I don't know where you've been. I don't know what you've been doing, but it's a little bit late now. It's a little bit late. And then they go on, and Jesus is trying to tell her the truth that he's been saying the entire time. your brother will rise again. And she confuses it, saying, oh, I know, you're talking about like in the last days, like he's going to rise again when everybody rises up with you and goes into heaven. And Jesus is saying, listen, I am the resurrection and the life. Right now, right here, life can happen. It's me. It's through me and me alone. And she still gets confused and misses it later. But it's okay. Jesus will get there. But here's what I've realized is that reasons we don't believe God, the first one, like we said, we think he's too busy. The second reason is this: we think he's too late. We think he's too late. You see, it's easy if you're Martha, it's easy if you're Mary, to look at the situation and your brother has been lying dead for 4 days. For 4 days. And you know what's interesting about this is, according to the Jews during this time, it's on the fourth day that the body starts to decay. It's on the fourth day that the actual decaying process really starts to take in. And actually, it's on that fourth day, they say that you can't even recognize the body to be a human anymore because of how long it's been. So when Jesus arrives, you have to understand Mary and Martha's emotion and their feeling at this time. It's not just you were a day late, maybe there's still a pulse or something like that. No, you're 4 days late, Jesus. And now what? As if there wasn't hope in the beginning when he was sick or when he just died, maybe you could have swooped in, done some CPR from heaven or something like that. But now, he doesn't even look like our brother anymore. You're too late. You're just too late. And so what did they do? They took what was dead, and they wrapped him up, and they put him in the grave, and they buried him. And if we're honest with ourselves, there's areas of our lives where we just feel like God was too late. There's places inside of us that are dead that we just feel like it's too late for God to even do anything with. You ever been there? Anybody been there? Anybody just, hey, there's places in my life where I just feel like God can't use that anymore. And so I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, what we tend to do is we take those areas and we say, well, God was too late here. He can't use this anymore. God was too late there. He can't use that anymore. So what we do is we just put it in a grave. We just set it aside. We said, what is dead, and that's where it's going to stay, right? And for you, maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was a dream you had. Maybe it was a dream to be some type of business. Maybe it was a business idea. Maybe it was a dream to be a musician. Maybe it was a dream to start something with your life. Maybe it was a dream to be a professional athlete. I don't know what it is, but there was this dream that you had inside that you were praying that God would step through and come in and help you through this. And he was just too late. So what do? Well, that's dead. That's dead. We'll just put that in its grave. Maybe for some of us, maybe someone hurt you. And so, because someone hurt you, there was something in your life that was once alive, and that person or that thing, whatever it was, that situation that hurt you, just caused death to happen in that area of your life. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it was somebody who abandoned you. Maybe it was somebody who abused you. Maybe it was emotional abuse. Maybe it was physical abuse. Maybe it was verbal abuse. They told you that you were never good enough. They told you you wouldn't amount to anything. I don't know what it is, but whatever it was caused something inside of you to die. And it's too late now for that to be used. And it's too late now for God to do anything with that. And now because of that, because someone hurt you in that way, maybe it was a parent who walked out on you. Maybe it was a mom or a dad who just left you. Because of that, now you have trust issues. And you've realized that piece of me is just dead. It's just dead. Maybe for some of you, it's not somebody who necessarily hurt you, but it was a broken relationship. Maybe it was a divorce. Maybe it was a breakup. Maybe it was a broken home. Maybe it was parents that you don't have a great relationship with. But now when you look at yourself and you look at your life, you feel like you can never really be loved because of the way that that relationship was just broken in your life. And so that area of your life is just dead. and we just put it in the grave, right? We just put it in the grave. It's just dead. God, you were too late to show up on that occasion. Maybe there's other things. Maybe there's something like addiction. Maybe it was substance abuse. Maybe it was a sex addiction. Maybe it's alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, but there's just an area of your life where you're like, that addiction is just called some numbness inside of me. There's just something in me because of that just feels dead, and I don't think God can use it anymore. It's just too late. It's too late for him to even step through. Maybe for some of you, you can really relate to this story because it was someone close to you who died. Maybe you have someone who just passed away, and you feel like that area of your life is just dead. It's dead. And so you just throw it in the grave because Jesus was too late to show up in their situation. And so now you lack faith, and there's a part of your faith that is just dead because you prayed and God didn't show up. And so now you look at this graveyard of a life, and you just see areas of your life, again, where you just feel haunted. Like you're living in this haunted house. There's dark places, there's creepy places, and there's all these dead spaces in your life where you just feel like when God looks at me, there's no way that he can use those areas because he was just too late. And this is how Mary and Martha were feeling in this story right now. They say, Jesus, I know you probably had some great things in store for Lazarus, but it's just too late. It's too late. You should have showed up earlier if you had just been here. We just read that Martha said this. You see in the next 10 verses, Mary actually comes out of her house. She approaches Jesus, and the first words that she says to Jesus was, if you had just been here, my brother would not have died. You ever been there with God? Come on, like you ever just been there in a situation where it's just like, I didn't get that job. I didn't get that raise. My kid never got healed. I didn't get this situation. I didn't get to have that life I thought I could have if I just was to marry that person, if that relationship would have just been restored. I didn't get the fullness of life I really could have had because of this abuse or that abuse. If you were just too late to show up when I needed you to show up. And we just feel like now that there are some dead places in our life that he just can't do anything with. This is where Mary and Martha find themselves. But church, what Jesus says completely blows me away. When Mary and Martha said, you're too late, Jesus says to her in verse 23, he says, your brother will rise again. Your brother will rise again. And if you're in this situation, this is not what you want to hear because it's not possible, right? If you're in this situation and you hear words like this, it's going to be okay. Oh, God's got this. There's a purpose. And you don't want to hear this because it's not what you see right now, right? And church, let me tell you something, is that we think that God shows up too late, but here's what I need to tell you, is that he actually has a plan for it. He actually has a plan. And again, this may not be what we want to hear in the moment because all we can see right now in front of us is death. All we can see right now is that dead place inside of us. But what Jesus says to Martha is exactly what he says to us today. He says, your brother will rise again. Your brother will rise again. What he's saying is the place that you thought was too dead, too far gone, that I could never use, I'm actually gonna bring life to it in a new and fresh way. And you know what I think he was saying here though? More than anything, he wasn't necessarily referring and saying, yes, your brother's gonna rise again and that will happen, but listen, I think what Jesus was saying, he says, I'm gonna show you that it's your faith that's actually dead, Martha. More so than your brother, it's your faith. And that is what I came here to heal. And that is what I came here to restore. It's the faith inside of you. Because right now, you don't believe I am who I say I am. And that's what I've come to do inside of you. And so today, church, I need to tell you something, because you may be thinking, well, how in the world could God have planned it this way? I just don't know how I could just trust the God who planned it this way. And listen, I'm not saying that God planned it, but what I am saying is that he has a plan for it. okay? And so you can look at it and say, oh, there's only death here, or you can say, oh, but I can see that God has a plan for what I once thought was dead to bring new life in a new way, in a way that I never thought was possible before. That's what Jesus does. It may not always be the way that we thought, but that's okay. It's the way that he planned. It's the way that he planned. Why? Because Jesus came to bring light to dark places and life to dead places. That's what he came to do. That's what he's always come to do. And so that when we see dead areas in our life, dead spaces in our life, we just have to remember that Jesus has a plan for what's about to happen. He's got it taken care of. Let's see, we pick up in John chapter 11. This is where the story continues. This is the finisher. John chapter 11, verse 38. It says, Jesus, once more, deeply moved, came to the tomb, and it was a cave with a stone laid across it. Take away the stone, he said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there's a bad odor, for he's been in there 4 days. You don't want to go in there, Jesus. Then Jesus says, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? This is the third time Jesus said what he had always planned to do in the first place. He says, so they took the stone away. Then Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew you always hear me. But I said this, listen, I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me. What Jesus is saying is, I'm doing this not just to raise this one dead man to life, but to raise these dead faiths to life who are all in front of me right now. And it goes on, he says, I knew you always hear me. He says, when he had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice. He says, Lazarus, he says, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. And Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. Let him go. It's interesting here what Martha does. It's interesting what Martha does. Jesus approaches the tomb. He approaches the place where he's about to do his miracle, right? He approaches the dead man. And Martha steps in and says, whoa, Jesus. You don't want to go in there. It smells bad. By this time, he's way past dead. And what you need to understand is that, see, Martha knew a couple things. Like I said earlier, according to the Jews of that time, it's on the fourth day that the body decays so much that you can't even really make out who it is. And it's also on that day that an odor starts to overtake the body. And so if physically he looked dead, you could smell that he was dead too. Also, according to Jewish law, if you were to touch the body of a dead person, you were considered unclean for 7 days. So what Mary or Martha thought she was doing was stepping in to save Jesus, right? She says, Jesus, you can't go in there because it's dirty, it's messy, and he's dead. And you know the last reason we don't truly believe God? We already talked about because we think he's too busy. We already talked about we think he's too late. And the last reason we don't truly believe God is we think he's too holy. We think he's too holy. Because we do that, don't we? We start to get close to God and we start to come to church and we start to kind of put these walls up like, oh, but God, don't get too close because you might see what's really dead in me. Don't get too close because it's bad in here, right? You know what's even funnier is many of us do this when we come to church. See, we'll come to church every so often and, we'll sing the songs and we'll give the friendly hello, get that Christian smile and everything. But we don't want to get too close to people here. We don't want to really start serving, get in groups, anything like that. We don't want to get too involved because if so, people might see just how dead we really are. You ever been there? You ever experienced that? If you get too close to people, if they know too much of your story, they might judge you and think you're unclean, you're dirty, I shouldn't have got here in the first place. And this is exactly what Martha is trying to do for Jesus. Jesus, not only were you too late, but listen, you're too holy to even come close, to even come near to this situation right now. And we start defending our problems. We start defending these things in our life. Say, God, you're too late, but also you're just too holy to get involved in my mess. And so really, it'd probably be better off if you just stayed where you were. I had a friend, speaking of, haunted houses, I had a friend who loved haunted houses. And we would go through, and he would ask me, he would say, Nick, you want to go through a haunted house? I would say, no, gosh, no. And inevitably, I end up going, because that's just how friends are. They make fun of you, and there you are, doing what you didn't want to do. And so we go through this house, and I just remember I was in the house, and I'm just on the floor crying at this point. You know what I mean? I'm just so over haunted houses, so over it. But I looked over at my friend, and he's just walking through this house, and nothing's fazing him. Like, things are popping up out of nowhere. I fly down on the floor, and he just walks by like he's walking through a grocery store. Like, nothing is fazing or shocking this guy. Like, we go through different areas, and different places were dark, and different places had different things jumping out and popping out, and everything was so scary, and he just continues to walk through. Unfazed. Just walk through. Nothing's scaring him. Nothing's making him jump. Nothing is shocking him. Just walk through. Just walking through. And so I start to look, and I'm like, I'm just going to go follow him. Because obviously he knows something that I don't. And so I just follow him through this haunted house. And at the end of the haunted house, I'm like, hey, bro, do you know something that I don't? Because literally nothing fazed you in that place. It's like you knew where everything was coming from. He just laughed. He said, well, Nick, that's because I've been through here before. I've been through here before. And here's what I know is true today, is that Jesus is not fazed by what's inside your house. He's not fazed by it. You see, he walks through, and you may think you need to hide stuff because it's too scary, it's too dark, it's too dead, but Jesus walks through completely unfazed, completely unshocked, just knows where everything is coming from. You know why? Because he's been here before. He's been here. And not only has he been here before, but he actually put this house together. And he knows where everything should go. And he knows how to turn lights on. And he knows how to restore things. And so we look at our house and we say, no way can anybody love this, can anybody use this, can anybody do anything with this, especially God. It's just too far dead, it's too far gone. There's dreams that have gone dead, there's wishes that have gone dead, there's areas of my life where I just know I am unable to be used. And you know what Jesus says? He says, let me take a look. Let me take a look. Because I built this in the first place. And if I build it, I can rebuild it. And if I used it once, I can use it again. Nothing scares me when I walk through here. Nothing terrifies me when I walk through here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to use you, and I'm going to put a light inside of you. And so you won't only be a haunted house, you'll be done with that. Now you're going to be a holy house. And guess what? I'm going to take your house, I'm going to put it up on this hill. And I'm going to take some other people's houses that they think they were haunted. I'm going to put some light in them, and I'm going to restore them. I'm going to put them up on a hill. You know what Jesus says? You will be a city on a hill, shining bright. Come on, somebody, listen. Jesus is saying, I'm not only going to restore you, I'm going to use you to bring light to a dark world where other people are scared. Which is exactly what he does with Lazarus. He says, listen, I'm not only going to bring you to life, but I'm going to bring the people around you to life, because you may be dead physically, but they have something worse. They're dead spiritually. And I have come to bring life. And we think that he's too holy, but really he only desires wholeness. And he will do whatever it takes to get there. And you may think, there's no way. There's no way. If he only knew, Pastor Nick, you're probably talking about like the little sins. You're probably talking about like the little dark places. But if you knew the stuff that I did, if you knew who I really was, if you can see my record, if you can see all the things that I did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, last year, just last night, God wouldn't want anything to do with this. But let me tell you something. We serve a God who came to bring light to dark places and life to dead places. It doesn't matter how dark or how dead. As a matter of fact, 4 days dead, even better, because that just shows his glory even more. So you may think you're the worst of the worst in this room today, but let me tell you something, that is exactly who Jesus wants to use. He wants to use the worst and say, hey, I will give them my best, and I will put them up and let everybody around them see, hey, if Jesus could change a life like theirs, then surely he can change a life like mine, and I think I actually have a chance in this thing, and he's gonna use you no matter what. That's it. That's it. This is the God we serve. But can I just remind you, his intention was the same from the beginning. From the moment that this happened, Jesus said what he was gonna do. Do you know that? And so let me just tell you something. It doesn't matter how long you go your life living and believing that God can't use a grave like this. His intention is true today, and it's gonna be true 5 years from now. It's gonna be true 10 years from now. It's gonna be true whenever you decide to make that decision to bring life inside of your life, to bring light inside of what's dark. It's gonna be true. It's gonna be true. So here's what I ask. I just want you to bow your heads. I want you to close your eyes. Just for distraction's sake. The question I would ask you today is this. If you're in here and you're like, Pastor Nick, I've felt more dead in my life now than I think I ever have. I've never experienced Jesus like the one that you're talking about because I've just always thought he was too busy. I always thought he was too late to show up to things. And I always blamed him for not showing up. And I just thought he was too holy to want to handle me. If that's you in here today and you want to say, hey, but if you're what's true that you said, that Jesus really wants to use a life like mine and bring light to the dark places and bring life to the dead places. If it's true as you said, and today you want that light and you want that life for your life, and for the first time you want to accept Jesus as your Savior and bring what was once dead inside of you to life, would you just lift your hand up and say, that's me. That's me. I want that for my life. I've been nervous about it before. I've had questions before. I didn't think he could really do it, but I want Jesus to save my life today. If that's you, just lift your hand up. Lift it high, lift it high, lift it high. I see him in the back. I see him in the corner. I see him up front right here. Just lift it high. So that's me. I need Jesus to step in and save me. It's amazing. It's amazing. Put your hand down. The last person is this. Eyes still closed, head still bowed. At the end of this passage, Jesus looks at Lazarus and he says, take off the grave clothes and let him go. Maybe you are a believer in here. Maybe you have received Jesus as your Savior. But for some reason or another, you still feel dead at times. And it's probably because you're still living with those same dead clothes on you. And you haven't really been released and let go from what has been holding you back. If today you would say, Pastor Nick, I want to make the decision to take these dead grave clothes off, put that old life behind me, and get let go, released into the life that I was always meant to live through Jesus. If that's you and you said, hey, I just want to commit to say, I'm ready to let those old things go, just lift your hand up and say, that's me. That's me. I need this freedom. I need to let those things go. Nothing's going to hold me back now. It's dead. It's gone. And Jesus had made me new. Just lift those hands up. It's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. I want both people to be praying this prayer right now. Let's pray. Dear Father, Lord, I know, Lord, I've messed up. I've sinned. I've done some dark things in my life. But I also know that you have come to be a light and life to my life. Because of that, you died on a cross for me. And I believe that you took all of my sins, all of my mistakes on that cross. Lord, I ask that today you would fulfill my life with freedom only found in you. Be the Savior of my life. And I promise today I will live for you forever. In Jesus' name I pray this. Amen.